Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to FRS Season 8. We are here, Division 2, Round 6, out to Marina Bay in Singapore, a night race to contend with. Here is the adjusted circuit, 5 kilometers around. It's actually 4.9, or 4.49, I want to say now. 19 corners, and has the 3 DRS zones. I can count. It's lost 4 corners since the last time we visited it back in Season 4. Of course, those changes to the third sector making the big difference. Your big action zones, though, turns 1, 2, and 3, the opening complex. A little blast of DRS down the pit straight, and then you are into this tricky couple of corners that leads to some good side-by-side action. And after that, you shoot down the next big DRS on your main overtaking opportunity, turn 7, this hard-braking left-hander that kind of leads into this middle section of the circuit. That's where we see most of the action. So the tires, as usual, soft, medium, and hard. The medium's about half a second slower per lap than the softs. The hard's about 1.1 seconds slower than the softs around the circuit. The softs can go about 17 laps in their life. The medium's 24, the hard's 28 laps overall, but they do lose their overall pace quite quickly. So an old set of tires will definitely be under pressure from a new set, even though they may not quite be at the puncture territory before that. So let's take a look at the championship tables. Fran stuff out in the lead, 87 points ahead of Spen and Gali. We sit on 50 points in P4. Madsta rounds out the top 5, just a little bit ahead of Ipswich, who has been having internet issues and not able to join for a little bit. Pathman in P7, and other people round out the top 10. But let's jump out to the circuit as we are heading out for our first qualifying lap. So opening up the DRS down the pit straight. Looking at this light board just past the 100-meter marker, that's about your braking point for turn 1. Pitch it in for the right-hander of turn 2. Get the car slowed down for turn 3. Very tricky to get on the power out of there, as it is a street circuit. A little lower grip than your traditional circuits. Now, this 4th gear right-hander, get the car rotated. We're staying relatively safe to the walls on our first flying lap. A little right-hand kink with the DRS open, and this is turn 7, the big overtaking opportunity. Slow yourself right down. You can actually straddle that curb without high centering the car, which is nice. And now into the tricky part. Very slow right-hander. We've actually taken the curb, which unsettles the car. And then this mid-speed left-hander, run it right out to the wall as much as you can to use as much of the track now through the old sling section. Pitch it in. Little left-hander, then get the car slowed down for this right-hander. Now you're headed on this lefty to the bridge. Get the brakes done nice and hard for the sharp little hairpin. A very tricky acceleration zone coming out of it. Flip open the DRS and head down into the next right-hander. Another potential overtaking opportunity if you can get the exit of the hairpin just about right. But otherwise, now we are about to head, instead of making a little left-hand kink, then a right turn, we stay straight, and this is the new little bit of the track. We avoid that right, left, left, right combination. Instead, just go with this final right, left that gets you back on the main circuit. Very fast little double left-hander, trying not to lose the rear, and across the line, a 1:31.1 the lap time here. So Singapore, with those corners removed, no longer one of the slowest lap times of the year. Now is a little bit more manageable. So we're back out for another flying lap. After the first run, provisionally running P3. Our teammate Bonhomie up in P2. Fran Stuff, championship leader, on provisional pole at the moment. So not as great of a run through the first couple of corners. We've actually lost about a 1/10.5. But there was time to improve through the middle part of the lap. You can see actually that right-hander we've managed to navigate quite nicely, and have gained about half of that deficit back. And now through this little mid section of the circuit, we are able to make some moves through turn 7, turn 8, where we had that big oversteer moment. It's going to be a good opportunity to pick up a couple of tenths. You can see up now ahead almost 0.3 of a second. Not quite as good of an exit as we could have gotten out of that left-hander, but still managing to improve so far on this lap. Now through it's like a bit wide, having to avoid that wall. We've carried some momentum though, so we're still about 0.3 up on our previous lap. A little bit of rear locking coming into the hairpin, but it does get the car rotated, and we are able to swing around and get the power down quite nicely. So we'll continue forward. Still finding a little bit of time. We're up now almost 0.6 of a second on this second flying lap. It's not going to quite put us, I don't think, in pole position, but it's a good start to look to it. Now, the weather report showed there could be some rain during the race. Apologies, a little bit beyond there. But it doesn't, so we do improve up speed, but the weather report did say rain potentially for the race. Now, we only get kind of the general idea in quality. We won't get more details until we go to our race strategy screen. But here we are, coming out for the final flying lap of the session. We're still in provisional P2, trying to find some improvement around the circuit. We didn't have a particularly great Sector 1 on our best lap, and we still don't have a particularly good Sector 1. Turn 3 kind of caught us out a little bit, but still within margin where we could potentially improve. But we lose a little bit more time through Turn 4. I guess that's Turn 5, because Turn 4 is a little left-handed kick. Then this is Turn 6, Turn 7. Get the car slowed down, try and straddle this, stay within track limits. We're hanging around right about that 1/10 of a second mark, and we've gone a bit deep into Turn 8, I believe it is. So we've lost quite a bit of time there, lose some time through Turn 9 as well. So it's not an ideal lap for us. We did run a little bit wide through this section last time, so you can see making up a good chunk of time. We're just about even, a hair ahead now. We did have that bit of rear locking moment last time through, but we're not able to improve. So still, we needed to find a fair bit of time to get up into the front row again ahead of Franstuff, ahead of that one kid, but we've not quite got the job done this time through, and we've actually lost a little bit more time. So we're going to go ahead and just abandon this lap. We're not going to find that time in the last corner. That's not much of a braking zone. So we're going to go ahead and pull in, abandon that lap, and just kind of take with what we got, maybe save a little bit of life in the soft tires. We end up P5, just ahead of our Mercedes teammate by 0.06 of a second. So it's a pretty close battle between the two of us. For stuff, that one kid, Gali and Pathaman ahead of us. Bonhomme, Zhao, Spenwolf, Robin, and Mittens rounding out the running order. Only 10 drivers on the grid, and we did see that there was going to be rain at the end of the race in this one. So red lights up, red lights out. We start on the medium tires. We get a decent launch off the line. Gali, not so good. We're trying to brake early-ish, but we make a little bit of contact with the back of Gali. That gets Zhao into the back of us. So a little bit of a mess into turn 1. Gali kind of broke like at the normal, like your full speed racing speed point rather than, racing into turn 1. So it caught me out a little bit. A little bit of contact. Nothing, no damage to me. Unfortunate that that Zhao wasn't able to react in time and got into the back of me. So a bit of a bummer for that, bit of a kerfuffle. But Gali with a mistake coming out of turn 3 and through turn 4, and that nets us a position. So we're running up now in P4. We have Franstuff out in the lead, Pathaman, and that one kid just ahead of us at the start of this race. So we are on a set of medium tires. We should have a little bit better grip than that one kid up in front of us who is going to be hanging on to the back of Pathaman now. That one kid showed very good overall pace last time out in Silverstone. So we'll see how he compares to Pathaman, who we have a little bit better idea of pace on. Some tracks he's on our pace, some tracks he's a little behind us. So he's similar to our pace. We're burning quite a lot of battery because I want to stay in this DRS range as much as possible. I want to stay in this train, and if we can separate ourselves from, separate Gali from the train while he's on the hard tires, it's going to make it that much harder for him to keep up, because if he stays in that DRS train, he's got a good opportunity to maybe lose out a bit in the corners as the hard tires are not quite as fast as the mediums at the start of the stint, and then get pulled along in the DRS. But you can see 1.3 seconds now, the gap between Gali, and he's got Bonhomme on soft tires behind him, maybe trying to attack. But we've closed to about 0.6, a half second to that one kid who's not got a great run through the right hand. But we're going to jump ahead. It's lap 10 of 31. We've been just kind of hanging out in this DRS train, and there's a full safety car deployed as Robin has crashed on the main straight. So there wasn't a whole lot going on in this race. Franstuff kind of ran off ahead, and we were just kind of stuck in this DRS train behind Pathaman and that one kid, not able to get in a position to make an overtake because that one kid has DRS off of Pathaman. But we're going to go ahead and come into the pit stops. We are going to gamble on the rain. we're going directly onto another set of medium tires. So if it doesn't rain hard enough for intermediate tires or wet weather tires, we are going to have to go for another pit stop. We haven't satisfied the 2 compounds rule yet in this one, but we are gambling on the medium tires as opposed to going to the hard compound tires, because I just didn't think the hard tires would have the pace I wanted to get all the way to the rain. And we were starting to get about 15 minutes or so to the rain calls from the engineer at this point. So jumping ahead now, lap 12 of 31. Safety car in this lap, waiting for the restart as Franstuff is leading us around. We'll see when he's gone. He's accelerated but not gone. It's a little tricky. And now he's gone, and we actually get caught out a little bit. Spenna has to check up because we didn't go, and he couldn't overtake us before the line. So with the way that Franstuff had kind of gone but not gone and then went, I was still unsure if he had gone. So it wasn't a particularly good jump for me, and it definitely kind of accordioned up some of the cars behind us a little bit. But all was fine, and we are now catching right back up to this battle. Now, that one kid on mediums, Pathaman on softs. The soft tires degrade quite quickly around here, so it was definitely a gamble for Pathaman to go on to the soft tires. But he was on the mediums and kind of in a similar situation to where we were, so having to make some choices as Bonhomie picked up a drive-through for speeding under that safety car. Unfortunate for his race. It's not ideal, and especially you can't serve it under safety car conditions. You've got to wait for actual green flag racing, and it's definitely going to put a big kibosh in his race. And we are kind of once again back in this this DRS train type of situation. DRS not enabled just yet. Takes 3 laps before it becomes enabled. But it's still definitely going to be a bit of a situation, as I think that one kid with the tire disadvantage, just like he had in the first stint, not going to be quite fast enough to overtake Pathaman. I think raw pace, equal tires, he's probably got Pathaman covered, as I felt I did in this situation as well. But there was just no real opportunity to get there with the DRS train. Bonhomie has dropped outside of that 1 second margin to us as well. We're still hanging on to the back of that one kid. And of course, with the safety car comes an opportunity to recharge the battery, so we can be a little bit more liberal with its usage. Which, in spite of all the braking zones, not a great track for recharge rate, honestly, around here. And that's kind of a theme I'm seeing for F123. It's very hard to recharge. Now, lap 17, Mittens for Kittens crashes out, and there is a safety car called once again. So we're just over the halfway point in the race. Another full safety car is being called. We are kind of imminent to the rain, and so we're potentially ready to throw on some intermediate tires if it does start to come down. But the field didn't really spread out, so a pit stop for soft tires wasn't really going to do anything but lose me some on-track positions. So I'm thinking here we just stay out on the medium tire, hold track position, and get our batteries recharged to see what we can do in this one. So keeping an eye as that one kid does opt for the pit lane, so we're going to go ahead and pass him and then catch up to Pathaman. Franstuff also came into the pits, so we are running second behind Pathaman now, who's on some soft tires that have seen a bit of action. So they're not going to be an ideal performance situation. And we are getting ever closer to the threats of weather. And you can see as the safety car in this lap, there's now rain falling on the track.
Let's get ready to go racing again. The safety car is in this lap. When the field accelerates, remember...
So it's going to be interesting how fast the track, gets wet is a real question. It's hard to get the indicator because usually DRS is the indicator, but it's going to be off anyway. I'm starting to see, some little puddles and splashes on the ground, so I've decided to come for the pit lane. In fact, our engineer, Mark, has also recommended the pit lane. A big slide as Pathaman accelerates, so he's already gone, and we are just going to dive straight into the pit lane. we're going to go for a set of intermediate tires with the way the rain is coming down. Try and undercut everybody that is going for an extra lap on the tires. And, of course, as I tend to do, the only time I use an assist is I'll put on the racing line when it gets to changeable conditions, just because I can be a bit of a danger to others while trying to feel out how much grip the track has. And sometimes end up braking very early compared to most of the other drivers who are using this racing line assist. So it's the only assist I use. Still no ABS, still no traction control, so it makes these greasy track situations pretty tough. But we are on to the intermediate tire now, getting the temperature in them as fast as we can and trying to hustle around. There's a 24-second gap to Zhao. Robin was actually the first one to be able to come in onto the inters, so he's had the chance to make the tire change early. He's in an ideal position to take net lead of the race when that happens. We've gone a bit deep as we are fighting with the grip and brake balance. I think at this point I didn't quite get the brake balance in the right spot for a couple corners. I just slid it another click forward to try and make sure that that's all good. But you can see now Robin's starting to pick off the dry tire runners. He's moved past that one kid. We are starting to make some inroads on Zhao. Local yellows ahead of us, and a virtual safety car is deployed. So our opportunity to really push on with, the intermediate tires in wet conditions hampered pretty significantly as it's transitioned to a full safety car in this particular instance. So everybody has to drive now to the same delta. So it is about a 27-second pit loss time under green flag conditions. We will see. It looks like Robin out in front, of course, staying out because he's already got the inner tires on. Now, once he does catch up to the safety car, it will remove our delta. So we'll be able to go pretty quick in the last bit as the rest of the field is kind of coming in. We have to slow down a lot because we've overran our delta by a bit. But Robin just about coming back. We have to just keep it nice and inside delta. And right about now, we're going to get released. So we are able to go accelerating fully while everybody else is still in the pit lane. Put the hammer down. They're coming out. They don't rejoin the track until they get through turn 2. So we are able to, in fact, jump Pathaman and that one kid. Even still, we don't quite get ahead of Fran Stuff. But we do have one lap older now, intermediate tires compared to the rest. Robin leading the race. Fran Stuff in P2 as we jump to lap 22 in the safety car in this lap, waiting for that race to get going again. Robin kind of false goes. I think, leaders in this race really did not do great jobs of restarting the race. They kind of went and then didn't go, which you're definitely not supposed to do. And it definitely created some messes behind. Pathaman is all over our gearbox. Pathaman very good on the brakes, even in dry conditions, but in wet conditions too. He was making up a lot of ground on me in the braking zones. And we're just trying to hang with the race leaders. Robin has that 5-second time penalty. We're just trying to, in maybe mixed conditions, stay with Fran Stuff as much as possible. Maybe a small mistake from him and we chance and take the race lead. But now we come into the middle there. Robin's very deep. He's actually out of the race with that contact with wall. Somehow his car ghosts but doesn't ghost. We make contact with it, but somehow through the magic of the game, we don't pick up any damage. And because the field's all grouped up, even though he's DNF'd there, it's just going to wave local yellow flags. They'll be able to recover the car without having to call a full virtual or full safety car. So we're up into P2 now, lap 23 of 31. So we're kind of counting down the laps as it gets close to the end of this race. Less than 10 laps to go, and it's already been kind of an exciting and a bit of a messy day. Tricky conditions, though. This changing conditions are very tough. You can see I'm feeling lots of pressure from Pathaman. He's dropped Gali just a little bit. Still about 1.2 seconds the margin between those two. I tended to get good release off the corners compared to Pathaman, so good traction. But he was absolutely eating me up in the braking zones, and it was making for an interesting little back and forth push and pull between the two of us. So lap 34 of 31, hoping and looking for a podium if I can keep the car just pointed the right direction and on track. That's kind of all we really, really need in this situation. Franstuff still widening the gap, hoping maybe for a mistake from him, but he's been leading so many races, winning so many races throughout this season that it was definitely going to take some either unlocking some tremendous pace somehow or a mistake from Fran in order to challenge for the race win. We are still hanging there or thereabouts, 1.5 seconds the gap as we're on lap 24. But we do have Pathaman very much in our rearview mirror, filling it up. It's opened up a little bit, now about 0.6 the gap as opposed to him being about 0.3, but you can see we've run a bit wide there. That's going to cost us a good couple of tenths of time now while he was within a half a second, but a bit of wheel spin on the exit there, and he is able to just about fall back again as we get some wheel spin on the exit of the hairpin this time, and you can see he gets the traction, goes from 0.9 to 0.6 back. So he's really got some good runs when he gets the traction, and we are still kind of hanging. Franstuff not running away quite as much as we would expect. And of course, in the rain, we do have the opportunity. The recharge rate goes up a little bit more because you're braking more, you're lifting and coasting a little bit more, you're not on throttle as much. So the battery charges a bit more, so you have more opportunity to deploy said battery. But it's just counting down the laps. Can we hold on for a potential podium finish in this one? We've had, a couple close calls with podiums in this season. We haven't been on the podium since Austria, where it was nearly a race win, and that was through the absolute mess of disconnects and safety cars and weather changes, and somehow we managed to come home P2. Just a bit of a damaged front wing kept us from staying within the track limits penalty of Gali for a race win on the season. So we're still looking for another podium and trying to ideally look for a race win in this season. I think past the midway point, only one podium. We're kind of out of the running for challenging for the championship, especially with Franstuff scooping up all the wins, unlike last season where it was kind of spread out amongst many drivers. So it's definitely going to be a tough opportunity to try and challenge for the championship. So still got the pressure from Pathaman. We are catching Franstuff just a little bit as we come to the bridge and hitting the brakes. The rears just completely lock on me, pirouette me sideways into the wall, damaged front wing. We have to stay completely stopped as the entire field drives through. It does, luckily for us, trigger a safety car. Both the debris on track and us just kind of being parked on the racing line. I think it's probably should have only been a VSC, maybe even local yellow, but with the game saw a car sitting there not moving, and I think it's a little, even on reduced, a little trigger happy with the safety car. But I had to sit there. I couldn't back out. Otherwise, I would have had an unsafe rejoin and crashed somebody else out. So I just had to kind of wait there until the entire field went past, hit the reverse, and then backed my way onto track. So we are going to get the opportunity to pit under safety car, grab a new set of intermediate tires. It's only going to be a few lap shootout to the very end of this race once the field is gathered up.
Forecast suggests the rain's going to be lightening up over the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. You should start finding more grip as we clear the standing water.
Now the rain is coming down a bit harder, a little bit later. We are getting the idea that it could get a little bit lighter, but the rain is coming down harder. So new front wing on, new tires.
Let's go now. Come on. That stop wasn't great.
And we're going to go ahead and pull out and get ready to catch back up to the rest of the field. Franstuff in the lead, Pathaman P2 at the moment, it looks like, as far as the orange dot on the screen. So we're going to jump ahead. Safety car is in this lap. Pathaman has actually pitted behind us for the full wets. As you can see, there's some puddles forming on the track. It was definitely right on the crossover point. I think full wets were actually a hair quicker than intermediates at this stage of the race, but we've only got a few laps left to go in the race, and we've got to restart this one, and we got a lot of work to do. We're down in 7th thanks to the small grid and 2 DNFs. We're in just P7, but you can see locking up on our way into turn 1. A bit of a mistake from Bonhomme and Spen, but no real door for us to go through. Big wheel spin as we come out of turn 3, so that We could have potentially gone down the inside of our teammate Bonhomme, but we instead just kind of have to back it out. And now kind of looking ahead, deploying battery. We've gotten a bit of a run, but he's going to hold us to the outside. And instead of having a big old lunge on our teammate, we decide to just kind of back out. But that puts Pathaman right up the inside, who locks up massively. The rear end slides out. We have to jump off track. Pathaman is going to take the position from us. And I would say it's a little iffy on that position. He was kind of out of control, and I dodged him, but I didn't submit it to the stewards. I think it was, I think it was mostly fair enough. He was nose ahead as he got into it, even though he was lunging. So just kind of let it go. It was a risky maneuver, but we all came out okay, to say the least. But that does drop me down to P8, so last car running. And you can see, even though he's squirming a bit, and also how much understeer I have at slow speed there, we are falling back from the wet weather tires that he's got on. And of course, my confidence is a little bit hit with the amount of squirming the car is doing, and the surprise rear tire lockup that we had just before. So it's not an ideal situation that we find ourselves in with just a couple of laps left to go. It's realistically only looking like a couple of points on the table when we were looking, 3 laps ago at a potential podium. But all it takes in these tricky conditions, as you saw, a little bit of a rear lockup. And honestly, I was surprised by it. I think it had more to do with the track getting wet than any kind of driver error. There was actually less brake pressure than the previous laps I had run through there. And it still locked the rears, which with my brake balance probably should have locked the fronts before the rears. But hey, alas, it is what it is. Now we're trying to just catch back up. We are starting to catch back up to Pathaman. The rain has reduced just a little bit. You can see he's trying to put pressure on Bonhomme. Bonhomme makes a mistake, goes very wide in turn 7. So he's not able to get it. We're going to have a look to the inside. We're just going to have to back it out, though, as we were nowhere near alongside the turning point. You can see the car squirming as I get on throttle, trying to accelerate and catch. And I'd say the wets and the inters about even at this point, maybe starting to swing towards the intermediate tires, but having to kind of get out of the way of our teammate, who we weren't able to clear after his little mistake, which Pathaman was able to sneak through. And that's just because we weren't doing well enough to stay with that battle, and Pathaman lunging it up the inside of Spen. So you can see the wet tires still working quite well, and Pathaman really trying to get the job done. He's fallen behind Spen once again, so he's still 1.3 seconds out ahead of us, but he's very much on the gearbox of Spen, who has a 3-second time penalty, I believe, at this stage. I know he had one at the end of the race, but we're trying to stay within his gap and maybe try and jump a position. I mean, we could be, if we can get by Bonhomme, Pathaman, and stay within the 3 seconds of Spen, recover for a top 5 finish. Bonhomme very slow out of the penultimate corner. We just kind of have to back it up, and there's no real way through there. But you can see it's costing us time to Pathaman, and crucially costing us quite a bit of time to Spen. We're on the penultimate lap of the race, lap 30 of 31. And you can see now Pathaman really starting to squirm. A big moment for the McLaren driver as he's now under pressure from Bonhomme, who goes up the inside. A little bit of maybe contact between the two. We have a potential door to sneak through, looking at the inside, 3 wide, maybe trying to go around the outside. We actually have to lift out because there's just no room. And we're just going to have to hold station as those two go into the corner. A little contact. Let's put Bonhomme a little bit wide. We're going to have a little look to the outside of Pathaman, but we're going to hold the outside around our teammate. That'll get the job done on Bonhomme. So now we're looking at Pathaman ahead. Spenwolf 2.7 seconds out ahead, and now you can see the wet tires starting to struggle, and I need to try and get by Pathaman like ASAP. But Pathaman has been fighting very hard throughout this race, as he is justified to do so. And I'm concerned that if I let Spen get the 3 seconds, it looks like he's got a bit of a run or a bit of a mistake through, but we're not able to quite get the car rotated to get the traction down. So he's actually able to accelerate well off the hairpin down into the right-hander. He's putting lots of pressure on him now. We're right up the gearbox, trying to go around the outside. Probably should have used some overtake early to get the run, but we're just not quite going to have the overlap, and I didn't want to lunge it up the inside of him, and that's cost me my 3-second gap to spend. You can see 3.2 seconds the margin, but you can see now Pathman really struggling. Have a little look to the inside, just have to back out of it, and that's actually going to allow Bonhomie to sneak up the inside of us. We're burning a lot of battery to try and make sure we don't have to re-overtake our teammate on the last lap of the race. Into turn 1, big rear lockup as we struggle, but we're able to get clear of Bonhomie. Now closing up to the back of Pathman, who had a moment of his own into turn 1. And Bonhomie, a mistake into the wall in the rearview mirror, so he is going to finish P8. There's got a damaged front wing. Luckily, he'll be last man running anyway. But it's too late for any safety cars. We've got a good run on Pathman. We're going to look to the outside. He's going to brake earlier than us. We're going to keep our nose in. He's going to try and take the racing line. We keep just enough of the car alongside that we're able to get up the inside. A big lockup, back end sliding all over the place. Getting on the throttle. The car is drifting, trying to accelerate, and Pathman gets the run. He's got the inside line, though, so we're going to go for the up and under, the switchback on him. We get a good exit from the corner. As soon as we have the traction, we're going to try and pull alongside, but no, we're not quite there. We're going to back it out, but he's gone a bit deep, so now around the outside through here, leave him space on the right-hander. We finally get the job done on Pathman, but you can see now spend 5 seconds up the road, so that battle big, and we're still squirming, just trying to get the car settled in for the last couple of corners, but now taking a deep breath, we are just through, and now we know on this last couple of corners we have the grip advantage on the intermediate tires over the wets, so we are going to be able to pull away from Pathman. Just need to make sure he's not in lunge position into the last corner, but we do lose out on the ability to catch Spen for a top 5 finish, but we will nurse our way through the corners and finish off with a P6. Franstuff grabs a race win. Pathman's gamble onto the wets. He was running P2 with that last safety car, but gambled on the wets. Didn't quite pay off for him. And our mistake did not pay off for us either, as we went from P2 to P6. So it's another good day for, I believe, that was Gali. Yeah, because Spen was P5. So Gali P2, and that one kid coming home in the Haas in P3. So a good result for them as well. And the top step of the podium once again, I believe 4 times in a row for Franstuff. So it's quite the results that he's been on a run of, and is going to basically take the championship out of reach at this point in the season for pretty much everybody. But let's take a look at the final classification order. Only 10 runners, unfortunately. Div 2's getting a little slim at the second half of the season. I know the other GTS series has kicked up, so that is taking a bit of time away from some of our F1 drivers. And there's always just a little bit of fall off as the season goes on. But Franstuff takes the win and fastest lap of the race. Gali P2. That one kid P3 Zhao. P4 Spenwolf in 5th. Ourselves in 6th. Pathman Bonhomie makes 7th and 8th. The last one's running. Robin DNF'd, as did Mittens, unfortunately, in this one. But a lot of stops needed to be done in this race. But we are headed next time out to China for the first time in main series FRS history. So thank you all for joining me this time, and I'll see you next time. Peace.